Hey dudes and dudettes, Mr. Theorist here, and welcome back to probably the final ever Game of Thrones theory video that I'm going to be doing on this channel. This theory video, as you will probably know by the title and depending on what I decide to be the thumbnail, it's me basically, well, I'm kind of trying to make the ending of Game of Thrones Season 8, and to be fair, the whole season itself, seem better than it did. I'll admit that up front. But the other reason for this is I watched the final season of Game of Thrones Season 8, and when it ended, I was like, hang on, did that mean what? Yeah, we'll just jump into it and I'll explain. Okay, so I don't quite know what I'm giving this title, but it'll clearly be something that will be spoiler-ish, but at the same time give you an idea of what to expect when watching this video. But it's basically to explain to you guys that there is someone in the series of Game of Thrones that played the Game of Thrones and won. As much as we watch the entire show, and if you look at it without this theory in mind, you don't really see it. But once you listen to my theory, you'll understand that this person played the Game of Thrones, won the Game of Thrones, and will never be defeated. So, who is it I'm on about? Well, I'm on about Brandon Stark, the three-eyed raven. As I've suggested in one of the videos, he might be the Red God, but going by what I'm deciding in this video, maybe not. Still believe the Red God could be a possibility, but probably not if this theory is pretty much, I believe it's true, at least to some degree, and it feels like a very George R. R. Martin kind of thing. So, yeah, let me just jump into this. So, how did Brandon Stark become the king? Well, if you watch the show, basically in the end, no one could really sit on the throne, and then Tyrion just decides, hey, Bran said he never wanted the throne, let's put Bran on the throne, and then when Bran dies, we'll elect a new person, because kind of democracy, but we won't let the people vote, only the rich people vote. Yay? But what Tyrion doesn't know is that Bran is the three-eyed raven, and from what we can gather from the previous three-eyed raven we met earlier in the series, he's got some level of immortality to him, maybe even totally immortality. So, okay, you might never have to elect a new leader, but okay, that's perfectly fine. Bran said he didn't want it, but he decided to do it anyway because they got no other choice. That's a lie, and this is me explaining to you guys how it's a lie. So, before I can fully explain this, we have to kind of remember some things from the season before. So, in Season 7 of Game of Thrones, two major things happen. One, we lose one of Daenerys' dragons. Two, we lose Littlefinger. Both of which are things that Bran made sure happen. How? Well, the first one is more of an indirect thing. As we know in Season 7 is the grand plan for to get all of Westeros on the same side to stop the White Walkers from wiping out all of life. Jon and the gang decide they're going to go north, they're going to kidnap a White, bring the White south, show him off to Cersei and all the Southerners, and that way they'll know what's happening and they'll come join as well. Except it doesn't play out like that, and the only person that really does go north from the south is Jaime Lannister. Okay, fair enough. But we lose a dragon because of this plan. We actually lose the flame priest knight person. I forgot his name, I'm so sorry guys. But the main thing is we lose a dragon. Now, this whole plan could have been averted if Bran had just said to them, look guys, being three-eyed raven, I can kind of tell when things are going to go pear-shaped, or because I have all of the world's history and stuff, that look, this plan will not work. But he doesn't. Instead, they go on this suicide mission. They almost die, but Dany saves them, losing a dragon in the process. And what did they get out of it? Just Jaime Lannister. Now, if Bran had warned them and said, look, there's no point in going north. You're not going to convince Cersei, you're not going to convince any of them that heading north to save everyone from the White Walker apocalypse is going to happen. What we really need to do is get Brienne to go and talk to Jaime and convince Jaime, because he's the only one who's going to do it. Bran doesn't. So okay, he doesn't tell them. Big deal. But not telling them is kind of one of the big deals, because we lose a dragon. It's one of the key moments that Bran needs to happen in order for his plan to fully activate. Now the second one is Littlefinger's death. Now this one, Bran directly creates. Okay? So if you remember, slightly earlier in Season 7, there's the moment where Littlefinger hands Bran the cat's paw dagger. This being the same dagger that Littlefinger used to frame the Lannisters for, to the Starks, making the Starks think the Lannisters were trying to kill Bran back in Season 1. And Bran, while holding the cat's paw dagger, says the one line that Littlefinger has only uttered once in the entire show that we know, and that is, chaos is a ladder. Now, this is the only time that line has ever come up is with Varys, and Littlefinger being Littlefinger, he knows Varys has not headed north, and Bran and Varys have never interacted. So how does Bran know this? This would begin to freak out Littlefinger, because Littlefinger is paranoid and he's always playing every war, every fight, all the time in his mind. So when he finds out that someone who he has no idea where the hell he's been all this time has turned up with this knowledge, and there's something very weird and different about him now, this is obviously going to set Littlefinger's red flags up, including on top of the fact that Arya is now around. So this explains the big issue 7 is, why does Littlefinger race around his plan to try and turn Sansa and Arya against each other? It's because he's terrified. Like, we know what that leads to. That leads to Littlefinger's death. Now, the two things that cause Littlefinger's death is Arya being around, but also Bran making Littlefinger second guess his own decisions, therefore also pushing his agenda forward and very aggressively, which leads to his death by Arya's hand. Now Littlefinger's death is important because with Littlefinger's death, Sansa essentially becomes the new Littlefinger in Season 8. Now that's also important, we'll come back to that in a minute. So far Bran has sacrificed a piece, as in Littlefinger, and sacrificed another piece, as in a dragon, because these are key moments that need to exist. So, they are the Season 7 moments. Now in Season 8, now that Bran knows officially who Jon is, he wants Jon to know, because he's a loving brother, and he wants Jon to know who his parentage is. So he should just kind of tell him, right? No, instead he makes sure that Sam tells him. And he makes sure that Sam tells him right before the Great War happens. And so Sam tells Jon who he is. Right after Sam is told by Daenerys, oh yeah, by the way, your brother and dad didn't bend the knee, so I burned them. So Sam is upset and just blurts out to Jon. Instead of talking to him calmly and collectively and giving Jon time as a friend to kind of sit down and they talk about it and they get the right mindset, no, he aggressively tells Jon, not giving Jon enough time to really think about it. Jon's now all messed up, and Jon has to go tell Dany after he slept with her, like, well, you're my aunt. This might not be that bad of a thing because we're Targaryens, but still, it's, and that makes Jon and Dany basically be in very different places when the Great War happens, which you could very much argue that is probably one of the reasons why they almost lose, because they're not a united front. And why? Because Bran made sure he dictated these movements. Now I'm saying very deliberately that Bran's dictating because there is the argument you could make that everything that Bran does is he simply allows destiny to take shape. But he doesn't, Because what Bran is doing is he is directing people in directions. They may have a path laid out for them, but the only reason they're on that path is because he pushed them onto that path. Without his whispering in their ear, without him suggesting things, they could walk a totally separate path. Everything that is happening, and everything I'm going to explain, is because Bran makes sure it does. So, we have Jon and Dany at odds during the Great War. We know where that leads. It leads to Jorah dying. Now, if Jon and Dany were united, they might have come up possibly with a different strategy last minute, or they might have used the dragons slightly differently. Jorah might have survived. Jorah, he is the big thing that Bran needed to happen during the Great War. Is Jorah to die. Now, we have Sansa is now Littlefinger. We have one dragon has been killed. Jorah has been killed. Now there's one more piece that has to be played before Bran's ultimate move can be made. And that is that now they've won the Great War, they then need to go south. Deal with Cersei, get rid of all this. Right, cool. Bran, how will things play out? Sits there and does nothing. Why? Bran could walk. He could walk into animals and give an idea of what's going off, or you could tell them, look, this is the plan that's going to be happening. Instead, no, he stays quiet. Why? Because he needs Daenerys to lose another dragon. Because if he'd have warned them, look, don't divide your forces, all head towards King's Landing as one big group, Daenerys wouldn't have done what she did. But instead, they divide their forces, and he flies the two dragons, while her iron fleet, her fleet is heading toward Dragonstone, and they get ambushed. She loses another dragon. We assumed lost a bunch of Dethrak Unsullied. Maybe not. It was confusing. But she loses a second dragon, and this is it. She's tipping. She's tipping. And on top of all this, why she's losing two dragons this season, you've also got Sansa Littlefinger now telling Dany, yeah, by the way, when this all comes down to it, the North, we ain't bending the knee. Daenerys losing another ally. And at the same time, Sansa is also telling Tyrion, hey Tyrion, guess what? You know you want to follow Daenerys because she's the last Targaryen. Turns out my brother isn't actually my brother, but actually he's my cousin. He's the rightful heir to the throne. Oh. Tyrion tells Varys. Varys then tells all of the kingdom. Dany finds out. Dany then realises that there is no one on her side. And obviously in the show, that's what we see is the reason why Dany becomes the Mad Queen. But all of these could have been averted if Bran had opened his mouth, kept his mouth closed at certain points. So now, Dany's lost her army, Dany's lost her dragons, Dany's lost Jorah. She snaps. She burns all of Westeros, forfeiting her right to the throne in the eyes of the people. Because remember, Dany was planning on winning the people and gaining the throne that way. That was the new way of things developing, of Dany creating a new kingdom from freedom. She forfeits that by burning Westeros, well, King's Landing. So, yes, Bran has got Dany out of the way. No one's going to want Dany in control now. It's going to be Dany versus the entire Seven Kingdoms, and Jon can sit on the throne. Bran doesn't want that either. Bran's playing the game. He's making sure there is no one who can take this from him. So what does he do? Well, he doesn't have to do anything. He can rely on his brother, not really brother or cousin, to do what his cousin does, which is the noble thing when the time is right. So Jon kills Dany. Now, he could at this same moment, he could then claim the throne. But Bran knows who Jon is. Jon doesn't want the throne. He admitted to Dany himself, I never wanted the throne. And by killing Dany, in some people's eyes, especially the Ironborn, he himself, he has forfeited his right to the throne. The two Targaryens, the two who everyone accepts the idea that they are the rightful heirs to the throne, have both forfeited their rights to it. So what happens now? Well, a new council is formed. A council of all of the noblemen, and they're like, how are we going to figure this out? We'll get super smart Tyrion, because super smart Tyrion, he's managed to outwit everyone this entire time, hasn't he? He knows exactly what to do here, exactly what to do there. He's always been ahead of the game. So what does he do? He suggests Bran the Broken. Brandon Stark, you should lead the people as our new king. Because as far as Tyrion knows, Bran himself has turned around to him and gone, I don't want anything. Great candidate. Bran, you can have it. Bran wins. Now you want to say that, no, it's all coincidental. Bran admits to us that this is what happened. He may not have admitted that he created everything to happen in a certain way. Bran admitted that this was the whole purpose of his journey south. Because when Tyrion says to him, Bran, will you become our new king? He says, why do you think I headed south? He freaking admitted it to us. Right in front of our faces, he admitted, look, why do you think I headed south? And that is how Bran played the Game of Thrones. But my theory doesn't end there. Because if you remember, when I've talked about other theories on this channel, I talked about the Red God one, and I also suggested why the White Walkers and the dragon exist. Okay, it's to kind of either put humanity back in line, because humanity's got too much of up themselves and everything, or maybe humanity needs to be cold a bit, and then the dragons will wipe out the White Walkers. For whatever reason, it is because magic has existed, and humanity has kind of forgotten about it. But now we have Bran, the three-eyed raven, sitting on the not so iron throne or wooden throne. We don't quite know what the new throne's going to look like. But magic now conquers humanity. Because Bran is now the king of Westeros, an undying master of seeing everything king, he can dictate mankind's very existence and dictate where they go, how they do things, as he's proven on a smaller scale with just the Great War and the few main characters. Imagine if he swayed people in certain directions across all of Westeros. Magic has won. Game of Thrones being called the Song of Ice and Fire. Ice and Fire wrote at each other's throats, while the true villain, the true player of the Game of Thrones, the three-eyed raven, snuck his way in, whispered just in the right ears, kept his mouth shut at just the right points, so that they, children, the old gods, put humanity back in their place. That, guys, is my theory. I hope you have enjoyed this. It's something that's going through my head. If it seems crazy and out there, well, Game of Thrones is crazy. And you look back with my theory in mind, it makes sense. Because you even look down to the White Walkers. Why were the White Walkers such a meh thing in the end? Why was it just seemed that they just raised an army, headed south, tried to kill people, and ended up dying? And why was the Night King doing some sort of ceremonious walk towards Bran? Well, because it turns out the White Walkers weren't the villains. White Walkers were probably trying to kill Bran because the Night King, like everyone suggests, had some sort of precognition like Bran did, and probably could tell what Bran / Three-Eyed Raven's plan was. So the reason he came back after all this time is because, oh god, The old gods are going to try and dictate humanity. I was created for a similar purpose, and look what that ended up. So maybe the second time of the White Walkers turning up wasn't to wipe out all of mankind, but was because they were trying to prevent the Three-Eyed Raven conquering. But Three-Eyed Raven outplayed everyone. Now he sits on the throne and can do whatever he likes, how long as he likes. So he is the immortal Three-Eyed Raven. And there you go, guys. Brand broken Three-Eyed Raven is the true villain and the player of Game of Thrones. Hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit the like button, leave a comment, tell me what you think about my crazy, mad, out there kind of theory. And as always, guys, if you would, please subscribe to this channel. Always helps. And until next video, guys, I will catch you later. Bye!